Hello dear students! In the last lesson we started building our first sidebar and we stopped at the point where we were building its structure. Notice here at the widget manager that we already got the sidebar created. However, if we add some widgets to the sidebar, nothing will happen. In order for the area and the widgets inside it to show up, we need to tell WordPress where this will happen. And the right place will be one of the theme's template files. Well, let's start by creating a new file here inside our themes folder. This file will be called sidebar.php. Inside this file, we'll start with the documentation. And then write the following code. If is active sidebar fancy lab sidebar 1. Here we are testing if there are any active widgets inside our widgets area or sidebar. If there is one, let's run a code. Dynamic sidebar, and let's copy this ID here and paste it here. And let's close the if block we opened up here. You can see that we can omit this PHP closing tag here, okay? It's the same thing we did in the functions.php file. Well, it's not ready yet. For this new file to make any sense, we have to call it at some point in our theme. Where would this point be? In our case, we will call the same widget area on all pages controlled by index.php and archive.php, and also on the inner pages of all the single WordPress posts. The only template file that will be left out is the one that controls the page layouts, this one here, page.php, and of course the home page template. So let's get started, beginning with the index.php file. Let's make a little modification to the HTML. We have a bootstrap row here that for now didn't make any sense because we didn't have columns inside it. Now let's add 2 columns. The first one will take up the whole loop area. Just below the row, let's create a div with the classes col.lg9, col.md8, and col.12. So on large devices, this div will have 9 columns, on medium devices 8 columns, and on small devices it will occupy the whole screen with 12 columns. And it will end here, right after the end of the if block. We'll have a div on the right side, actually not a div, and a site tag with 3 columns on the large breakpoint, and 4 columns on the medium breakpoint. And it will also have 12 columns on the small breakpoint. And so that it doesn't span to the end of the div vertically, I'm gonna limit its height with the bootstrap 8/100 class. This is where we're gonna call the contents of the sidebar.php file. To do this is pretty easy. Just use a WordPress function simply called get_sidebar. Well, I just did it so you guys can understand the HTML markup we need. The correct thing is to just leave the call to the getSidebar function here, and the HTML goes into the file like this. By doing this, when we enter the blog page, for example, here on the right side, we are seeing a blank space, which is where the sidebar will stay. So let's add here a text widget. We'll write the title and some text here too. We're gonna save it. And now, yeah, we got something coming up on the page. If we inspect the widget, we see here those classes and IDs that I mentioned to you in the previous lesson, and the H4 title. So by using this, we can easily style everything using CSS. Another thing you notice is that the positioning of the pagination has been fixed. Now if you go to the last page, here it is. It's not that messy anymore like we had before. With a little CSS, everything will fall into place, you see. Alright, we need to do the same thing now for the pages that depend on the archive.php. So, for example, if we click here on the author's link, we don't have the sidebar. So let's copy parts of the HTML we used in the index.php. This div goes here and ends here. Now let's call the sidebar once again. And that's it. Now we have the sidebar here too. It's very easy. So now we need to do the same thing with each post page. Let's go to the single.php file. And let's do the same again. I'll speed up the video again, okay? Alright, mission accomplished for now. As you can see, we got sidebar here too. The only place where we don't want sidebars is in the page template. So by clicking here on the About page, everything looks the same. That's correct, okay? Now an important question. Do you remember that we had a weird look on the shop page sidebar? Let's see how it looks like. Look how interesting. It looks like magic has happened here. We didn't do anything, but the content of the only widget area we got is now showing up here. Out of nowhere. Why did that happen? How can we do to show a different content here? That's what we'll find out in the next lesson. So until then, guys.